to start with the offense. Bump, this year's squad with Sam Darnold, JSN, Cooper Kupp, is that a better group?
The group that when I wrote this down, the first group I went to were the wide receivers.
Okay.
And the reason why I went there is because in DK Metcalf, you had pretty much 1,000 yards every year. And with Tyler Lockett, obviously he kind of phased out towards the end. There were years where they both went for 1,000 yards. And if you look at just who Cooper Kupp has been over his career, throughout his career, he's a guy who obviously won the Triple Crown in 2021, 1,900 yards, 16 touchdowns, 145 receptions. Since then, he played in 9 games, 8-12, 6 touchdowns, 12 games, 737, 5 touchdowns, another 12 games, 710 and 6 touchdowns. I think if he plays a full season, he goes for over 1,000 yards. And every year after that, even in 9 games, he still went for 8-12. But because we haven't seen it as of late, that's a question that needs to be answered. Is this receiving core better with Cooper Kupp and JSN as the number one? I think JSN is more than capable of being the number one. But you got to have somebody to bounce off of. And I think Cooper Kupp can be that guy and will be that guy. But because we haven't seen it in a few years, I'm asking the same question. Like, is this a better receiving core? So if you just take out Tyler Lockett and you have JSN and DK Metcalf as your number one and number two, right? Lockett was a clear number three. I think what Lockett did his last year, you can get that from one of these other guys. The question is JSN and Cooper Kupp equivalent to DK and JSN? Obviously, physically, they're not equivalent. DK is a monster. There's only one other receiver in the league that kind of resembles him, and that's A.J. Brown over there with Philly. As of now, I don't think they're a better duo.
I don't either.
Could they be? Possibly. They could possibly be a better duo, but do they need to be a better duo than DK and JSN for this offense to have success? I don't think so. So it's not a knock on these two. It's not a knock on Cooper Kupp. I think JSN is going to go for over 1,000 and do his thing, but just physically and production-wise, I don't think they're a better duo, but I think that what you're going to get out of these two will be enough for this offense to have success.
I think that a team, regardless of anything else on it, a team with, in 2025, Geno is your starting quarterback, DK and JSN, is better than a team with Sam Darnold as your starting quarterback and JSN and Cooper Kupp in 2025. However, to your point, which I think is a really good one, it's about where they moved their energy to. They didn't spend all of their energy in the offseason going, we need to become an explosive passing offense. We need to be elite. We need to get downfield. We need to, put up 40 points a game. They spent all of their energy going, we need the very best defense. So let's, lock up Ernest Jones, do whatever we need to do, add DeMarcus Lawrence for a little bit of an edge, get Nwosu healthy, whatever we need to do, being the best defense. And then they spent a lot of energy talking about and leaning into, we need to be a better running team. That's where their energy was. You can go back to the combine and you can find every other quote from either Mike McDonald or John Schneider saying, we need to run the ball. Really excited about these running backs. We need to run the ball. You can find them talking about how important it is that their offensive coaching staff really get the most out of the existing offensive linemen they have and really continue to develop these guys. Like how important teaching is going to be on offense, how excited they are about Klint Kubiak. That's where they spent all their energy. Right. So I agree with you. I don't think the wide receiver group is better this year on paper than it was last year. And I don't necessarily think the offense is. I think the offensive line could be. And part of that's Abe Lucas being healthy this year.
Yeah.
And Gray Zabel. I think the offensive line on paper is better.
I think so, too. You start the season with Connor Williams, who decided to retire after a couple just horrific games. I feel bad for the guy. I know mentally it was tough. It probably didn't sit well for the players in the locker room either, just giving up on your boys. But you had a legit competition at that center spot, which I thought Oluwatimi was going to win. Looks like Sundell has a chance to be the starter there. You went and did something you haven't done in a long time since, 2001 or something like that. You drafted an interior offensive lineman with your number one pick, top 20. He was 18. Zabel last lineman was a Hutch back in the day. And then, like you mentioned, it's a healthy Abe Lucas, and I think that's going to be key. I said it yesterday. The way they're using Abe is awesome. He's a mobile big guy. He plays tackle. They were experimenting with the idea of him playing guard as well, and you don't do that unless you have feet unless you can get out on the edge, unless you can get to that second level pretty quickly. They've used him in different ways this year. Obviously, in the wide zone, he's getting wide. He's setting the edge. There are also times where they'll put a tight end next to him. The tight end will down block. He pulls around and gets to that second level. Abe looks great, and I think that's going to be key here. And you asked the other day, is it fair to ask Zabel to be the savior on this offensive line? No. Is it fair to ask him to be the third best on this offensive line? Yeah, I think that's fine. But there are some positions, too, where rookies come in and just play well.
Yeah.
And offensive lineman is one of those positions. I think the offensive line is better, and then you combine the play calling. I think you have to set your guys up for success. You have to keep defensive linemen and the defenses in general just second-guessing themselves. And you do that with play calling, and that helps everybody, especially the offensive linemen.
Someone said JSN is so underrated. It's a number one. It's crazy. He's so much better than DK. I think they're different receivers. DK is only a 4-3 guy. DK is the only 4-3 guy that can jump over coverage that can't high point the ball.
Yeah, high point's not wasn't his strength. That's for sure. But when you have back-to-back seasons over 1,000, you have 3 seasons over 1,000. Every season you gone at least over 900 yards. When you have 48 touchdowns total, when you have 2 seasons where you go 10 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, I get it. It might not be pretty to the eye. I understand that. But these numbers are for real. DK, he has a touchdown of 84 yards, a touchdown of 73 yards, a touchdown of 71 yards.
Can we stop pretending DK isn't a good receiver? And can we also stop pretending he gets thrown out or like a personal foul every single game? That's not true.
That's not true. That's not true. Now, there are some things that you don't like about DK now that he's gone. Obviously, we're going to point him out a bit more, especially fans. But DK was a good receiver. There's not a receiver on this team right now that's taking the ball 84 yards to the house. There's not one on this team. Does that mean they're not going to be great? No, I think they can still be good. But you're missing that part. But you don't necessarily need that part. I think if Kubiak came to Schneider and said, we need a guy who can take a screen 84 yards or a slant 73, then maybe you work with DK and try to convince him to stay. But no, I think they will be fine. But let's not snub DK. He was a good receiver here.
I know that the point of this exercise is to look at the actual positions on the team, but at offensive coordinator, I think Klint Kubiak is better than Ryan Grubb.
I think so already.
And that's not a hot take.
Already, I think he is. I think here's the thing with Grubb too, man. His journey was crazy. Like he started, him and DeBoer started from the trenches and made an ascend over the past 15 years. I think that what he learned in the NFL, he's going to take to Bama, and he'll probably get another shot in the NFL and maybe be a better OC. Yeah. Pete Carroll wasn't a great head coach in the NFL his first stint. So sometimes failure can be good.
Yeah, I think that, though, for this year, if we're talking about in 2025, is that group better? I think you've improved with your offensive coaching staff for sure. And there's more familiarity that staff has with each other. I know that Grubb was obviously familiar with his own offensive line coach and with some pieces there, but like Klint Kubiak has at least been in the league. I know he doesn't have more than a 1-year stint at OC with either Minnesota or New Orleans, but that's still 2 more years than Grubb had.
Yep.
And I think that it sounds like his vision, and at least the offense we've seen outside of Seattle that he's had, lines up with what Mike Macdonald wants. And that was not the case with Grubb. And Grubb might have been able to say, I do want to be able to exploit the run. When you think about it, we actually really liked running the ball at times with Washington. It was still clear once they hit the ground. I don't want to say hit the ground running, but once things got underway in Seattle, it was clear that was not the case. He was going to, when he was uncomfortable and when they weren't sure how to win, they were going to lean into Geno in the pass game. And sometimes that worked because that was the strength of that team and had been for a while. I don't think it's the strength of this team anymore. You're going to have to run the ball. And I think that Mike Macdonald's okay with that. I think Klint has more answers for that.
Yeah,